Hi folks, it's Darcy from thepurposefulpantry.com and welcome back to another edition of Drycember, where we're taking a bite-sized chunk out of learning to dehydrate all month long. And today is going to be a little different. What I've done is I've pre-recorded this video a while back and had attached it to the end of a video where they didn't really have anything to do with each other, but it's something specific that we get asked a lot of, what do I use to line my trays for my dehydrator? So I'm going to use that video today to kind of walk you through the different things that I use and do a little bit of a review on what I feel like are the best kinds of sheets. Mine will be specific to the Excalibur because those are the ones that I'm using. However, looking at what they are and how they work can help you decide what kind of trays to get for your machine, okay? Because a lot of these kind of sheets are available in other versions for other types of machines, for as far as the circular ones and other kinds of liners. So that can help you figure out what might work best for you. But the one thing that I didn't talk about was mesh, and this is a mesh sheet. Okay, you can see this. It looks like, if you're familiar with them, you can see what that looks like up close. If you're familiar with it, this is a lot like the plastic canvas that you would get in the craft store that you would do crafts on. However, unless you cannot get these any other way, that is not a food safe material, so it's not considered something that would be food safe to use on your machine. However, you could live in a part of the world or in the part of the country where you can't get good mesh for your machine, and I'm not going to tell you not to use it, but just know ahead of time it's not considered food safe, and it's not food safe by the manufacturer. They will tell you this is not food grade plastic. Okay, all right, now what this mesh can do is that when you put it on top of your trays, especially if you happen to have a tray that has large gaps in it, this can stop your food from falling through. It does work a little bit to stop your food from sticking, not as much as a fruit leather sheet does, depending on what kind of food you have, but I find this to be essential on anything that I'm using. Even in my Nesco, I have actually cut some of these down to put in my Nesco trays, so I can use this instead of the ones that they recommend because they're a little too expensive, and because I don't like the hole, because I can put this on my Nesco, not have the hole in the middle, air still flows through just fine, but I've got this to protect things from falling through. So let's get on with the video. Some options for fruit leather trays for your square machines like an Excalibur or the Cosori. I don't know how large their sheets are, but those square machines, you've got some access to quite a few different kinds of fruit leather trays to help with doing fruit leathers or making sure that things that aren't sticky aren't going to stick to your mesh. I use them quite a bit for things like fruit and for tomatoes and for making powders. So what I was going to show you is some of the options for those fruit leather trays, and my favorites, my not so favorites, and options that you might have. So all of these are good fruit leather trays. So I never want to assume that any of these are not a good tray, but some of them have great benefits to them, some of them don't. Some of them have some drawbacks that might make you think twice about doing it. So here we go. Of course, you can always use parchment paper, and I don't have any parchment paper here, but it is, it's cheap, it's easy to use, and it's wasteful because you just throw it away after. So what we're going to talk about are these that are reusable resources, okay? This is a fruit leather sheet that is by Homey. It was about, I think when I purchased it, it was about $13 for a full set for an Excalibur. I want to say it was the $13 to $15 range, and I think right now they're running from $12 to $16. It just depends on who you're getting it from and what brand you get, because a lot of brands are out there now. But these are cheap. They are good. They work really well as a fruit leather tray. They aren't the best at it, but they still work really well. And for the price point, they're great. After a few washings, they are starting. Can you see that right there? They are starting to come apart, where the fibers of the mesh are starting to come apart. The problem is that I'm pretty sure that between fabric and the fiberglass that may be embedded in here to help this, I didn't check to see if this one has it. I know most of them do. This is getting into your food. The other thing, which I know you won't be able to see here, I don't know if you can see how crinkled and things it is. The crinkling effect is a big deal, and I get to where after a while it's not aesthetically pleasing, but it's not such a big deal. But you can see where it's starting to stain on the edges, and I wish you could see this and that you can't. What happens is that because the edges of this are open, water seeps in between the layers. And then as over time, you start getting more and more water in there, it still evaporates, but it leaves a stain. So for me, it makes it feel like these aren't necessarily clean. I guess that's what you would say. Over time, I want to use them less and less because I'm worried that they're going to transfer something to my food. And I know that these are covered by, I want to say it's covered by Teflon. It may be silicone. I'd have to go back and look. I didn't look at that ahead of time. So I know they're covered, but over time with the cracking, with the way that the layers are starting to get moisture in between them, I just wonder how clean these are going to be over a long period of time. Number 2, and this one is still wet, but that's part of why I'm doing it. These silicone lip trays from Bright Kitchen. They are now all the rage for silicone trays for your Excalibur. They're great because they have this 1/4-inch lip that you can pour your fruit leather onto here and not have to worry about it running off the tray and then getting all over your machine. As people start learning how to dehydrate, they often don't know that fruit leathers can, especially if they don't cook them ahead of time, if it's one that needs to be cooked, to simmer it down and let the pectins start to thicken it and get rid of some of the excess moisture. They pour things on their trays, and then over time during the process, it runs off and then it gets in the bottom of their machine. And if their motors happen to be on the bottom, then it gets dirty and it starts stinking and smelling and stuff, or it just makes a big mess. So these are great for that. And because they're just silicone, they're not embellished with fiber, with any kind of fiberglass on the inside, you can actually cut these if you needed to, if all you did is want the silicone. But here's the thing with these. Because I have hard water, or we have harder water, it's not necessarily hard water, but it's not soft water either. When I dry these, they're left with a lot of deposits on it. There's nothing I can do about it. Even trying to dry them after washing, did I say drying these? When I'm washing these, they're left with some water deposits. And it always leaves them with gunk on it. And then I have to clean them off before I use them. The other thing is that my house is particularly dusty, and no matter where I try to store these, they always seem to collect dust, and that dust is hard to get off. It doesn't just brush off. You have to actually get a wet rag to wipe them off, and they are maintenance heavy. The other thing I don't like about them is that with some fruit leathers, especially when you're drying them past the point of just pulling them off and rolling them and having a fruit leather, they don't stick, but they get dusty, and the stuff sticks to them, and it doesn't come off cleanly, and it just sticks. I mean, the silicone itself is sticky because that's what silicone is like. It's made not to stick, but that doesn't mean that smaller pieces don't get they don't embed, but they just are there. So while they're great, they're not my favorite. And when I first got them, I loved these things, but after working with them for months, I'm just like, they're good. They're just not my favorite. But if I was doing something that needed to have a lip, that would be perfect. So my next one are the original Excalibur Paraflex premium sheets. Yes, it's dripping because I just washed these and I didn't get them all dried off. This thing is thick. It is a silicone based fiberglass mesh mat that will make it to where nothing sticks on anything that you're working on. And look, I didn't even get all of the project from today off of it. So it's this Excalibur right here. These are expensive, which is why they are not my recommended sheet for using as a fruit leather sheet on your trays. They are really expensive. And the last time that I remember seeing them, they were extraordinarily expensive, which is why I don't purchase them. They were going to be the thing originally that I was going to start investing in, buy one at a time and have them for all of my trays so that I had really great quality silicone sheets that I didn't have to worry about messing up anything that I'm working on. The problem is the price point. The price point is massive, and especially if you're working on a budget, these are going to be hard to find at any kind of sale that makes it. These are great, and I love them. And one day maybe I'll have a whole Excalibur full of them, because the body of them makes it so much easier to work with. They're firm, they don't slide around, they stick to the tray, they stick to the mesh if I keep the mesh on the bottom. They don't move around when I'm trying to spread things on them. I mean, I love them, they're awesome for that. But the price point makes these my number 2 spot. And so my number 1 spot, so now I just have fallen in touch in love with these. These are the Excalibur Paraflex. They're the 14 by 14 size. These things, nothing sticks to them. they are not cheap. I mean, the price of one of these is the same price as a whole set of these. But when you can get them on sale, or maybe if you buy them through Amazon, I'll leave the link down below. And the thing about it is that even when I bend them and use them, they don't crinkle the same way that the Homies do. The edge doesn't get wet on the inside when I wash these. Things just peel off of this like a breeze. I mean, it just comes off so much easier. And this dries better than the Bright Kitchen. This one dries the slowest out of all four of these options, partly because of the lip and partly just because of the silicone. I'm not sure why, but this one dries less quickly than the other three options. So I just thought I would talk about that a little bit because this is my favorite and I really love it. And I'm not trying to get you to go buy them. It's just my experience with what I've been working with, and that's what I like the best. I know a lot of people prefer to use parchment just because it's so easy to work with and it's cheap and it's easy to get. And you're not having to make a big investment again. I mean, a roll is $5 and it lasts you for a really long time. But when you're dehydrating as much as I do, buying one of those rolls doesn't last very long, and I feel bad about throwing it out constantly because that's what I would be doing with it. So that's my stuff, and I'm sticking to it. So if that didn't answer any of your questions about the liners for your trays, please make sure to ask down below. I'm happy to answer any question that you might have. Now remember, there are liners for different kinds of machines that are available all over the internet, on eBay, on Amazon, from the website, from the manufacturer's websites. You can get these liners anywhere. The Bright Kitchen green ones are available in many sizes. There's a round one. You just have to determine if that diameter for it is going to fit your machine. And if you missed yesterday's video on essential tools, it's right here for you. If you haven't seen the whole series, I've got it right here for you so you can start at the beginning and catch up. Right here, I have a subscribe button if you like what we're doing here and want to see more of this in the coming year. And I am so glad that you've joined us today. I hope to see you again tomorrow on another edition of Drycember.